Hey, RJ, I know you're not feeling well. I promised for an hour for
Oh
you. If you
yeah,
want to stick around, that's great. If you want to
Dude,
talk,
you're
talk.
good, man. I've actually powered through it. Like I
Okay.
said before to you, George, I've been taking, a combination of ibuprofen, Tylenol, and some Dayquil. Hopefully, my pulse is doing well. I'm been sucking
okay.
down Sprite and ginger ale, so I'm
Dayquil and
doing great,
Sprite.
man.
Yeah, I got sick about a
So we'll
month
stick
ago.
stick with us for the next half an hour,
Yeah.
and we'll take some.
Yeah, hell yeah,
Whoever
man.
wants to talk
I'm
to us,
here.
Yeah,
feel
I, was gonna
free.
say, I feel like we got some requested in, so blah. Anybody put their we'll let some people in, put those some hands up.
Hand.
We'll talk to some folks. We'll have some fun. Yeah, I got the
Sure.
pay per view on, so yeah, I'm watching that too, guys. What's yeah?
RJ, when did Jimmy join the show? I never did ask that question.
So I want to say, crap, I want to say came in with us. If we've been doing it 3 years, he's probably been in with us for probably about 2 years, maybe. I think he came in within. Oh man, now I got to
Wow.
go back here. So he's probably been with us for probably a good, I'd say probably more than a year. Probably been at least 2 years at this point. We just came with an idea of, Brian and I were having great conversations, a lot of fun, but we wanted to have another voice that could bring a little bit more out of Brian, could bring a little bit more out of me and give their point of view to the show. And we talked, Brian and I talk about it personally on the phone or on, Zoom when we're recording, and we're just like, hey, who's somebody that we could, bring in that would, give us a little bit more, and has been doing it all. I did it all. And at the same time, we said Jimmy Korderas.
that's nice.
And he, at that time, he was doing, Wrestling Inc. They since have defunct their podcast and their YouTube channel. But Jimmy goes back to stories to, driving Andre the Giant around in Jack Tunney's Cadillac from the airport. And
Wow.
drinking with Andre the Giant at the bar in Toronto. It goes back to taking pictures, almost getting, taking pictures at the, Maple Leaf Garden and getting a job with the Tunneys basically for taking photographs, just like all the rest of them, Paul Heyman, Jimmy Korderas did the same thing, folks. And one night they said, hey, let's get the kid in there. And, had black pants, bow tie at that time, blue shirt, and, he got thrusted in there.
And he's never looked back. That's awesome.
No, and the thing is though, a lot of the times too, it's like, we get a lot of people, whether it be our guest or people online saying, hey, one more run. Yeah, it's all well and good, but, Jimmy and Brian are perfectly happy, doing what they're doing at home. Brian's got twin daughters in softball. He's got a son in, playing college baseball. He's home. He's running his own, family business.
Yeah.
So, Brian's happy to sleep in his own bed every night and not have to be catching airplanes and, rental cars and all that stuff, but he does miss it. He misses the boys, and they both do. And, I wouldn't rule it out. Never say never, but, I think it's, it's something that we could, foresee in the future, potentially.
I feel like kind of back to like the NFL thing. It's like those guys where they get towards the end, like, man, I could do the games, but the training camp, the practice, the regimen, like if they could just do the shows, it'd be great. But yeah, you got to be on the road and do the other things and travel and all of that.
Well, and it's one of those things too, where, and I've pitched the idea to them before, is, you've seen, Mike Chioda do it, where he does a lot of the seminars, for independent wrestlers, independent referees, in the Florida area, where he's down there in Tampa. And that's doing well, but the problem is though, I told him, I said, what's stopping you from going to a WWE or going to a TNA or, AEW and saying, hey, I'll come by for a month and help your referees out and train your referees the not the right way, but the way that they got up from
Yeah.
Dave and Earl and Timmy White and all those great referees in Kyoto. And, it never really materialized because I think at this time, and this is strictly, obviously this is my opinion, I think they've gotten down to the point where, okay, we're doing it this way because this is the way we've done it for the last number of years and it works.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
And at least Charles Robinson's there. I feel like as long as he's there, the referees are going to be at least okay. As long as he's there.
Well, hell, Charles is still putting up the ring, man.
I know. That guy, man. That dude, he seems like the nicest guy on the planet and like, obviously a super hard worker. But yeah, you're surprised that like Kyoto or Earl or something, they don't bring him down to like the PC and have like a seminar, like all the referees come in for a weekend or something and they get a training session.
I remember stories that, and forgive me, I'm pretty sure that this was on an episode, but, at one point, Brian was ready to go down to Orlando and train the referees for NXT, in between his stints with, NWA and TNA, the last run he had. And just, stuff fell through and, as, you guys can imagine in the wrestling business stuff happens and they're not needed or they're just going to have somebody that's down there or whatever. But it's one of those things where you'll see, Jimmy was up to, I'm trying to remember. I think it was Elimination Chamber that was in Toronto this past year.
Yep. Yeah.
Jimmy was up there. He said hi Jimmy has no reason to lie. And he's told me he went back and saw so many different people and, hugged them and shook hands and took pictures. And, he's taking pictures with Triple H. He's taking pictures with Cody Rhodes, with Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, all these guys that respect him. And it goes both ways, obviously. But, it just irritates me a lot of the times. And it doesn't really take too much for me to get irritated nowadays with wrestling, but
fair.
Excuse me. But when they come at, a Brian or a Jimmy, these trolls online that they can't see beyond their nose because they got all the Cheetos Cheeto dust in their eyes. And they haven't seen the light of day in about 3 weeks because they're playing Super Mario Brothers on their Nintendo Switch in their mom's basement.
Seen highlights that somebody put together in a YouTube clip.
Exactly. And it's very limited stuff.
Yeah. It's like, and I'm not saying they've got to go back and watch every episode of Raw and SmackDown. No, but they're talking about different matches. They're talking about things that have happened and they haven't even like watched the pay-per-view, or seen the match they're talking about in full.
And it's one of those things, like I said to you guys previously tonight, is have they main evented pay-per-views? Have they been at WrestleManias? Have they been specifically requested by Hall of Famers like The Undertaker and Edge? Have they worked matches with Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle or Eddie Guerrero, or was given the opportunity to book and write for certain promotions behind the scenes that people still to this day do not know? And it just blows my mind that people will.
Well, they're not people, they're trolls. You nailed it.
Right. Well,
they don't deserve to be called people. Most of them.
Well, you said it, I didn't, but we'll go. I digress.
Well, the ones that are the trolls, because I've seen the ones that attack, specifically Jimmy Korderas, because I see a lot of, he comes on my timeline a lot because I agree with a lot of his stuff and like a lot of it. So like, most of the, at least the ones that are the full-on, like, AEW sickos that are just in their own little bubble world.
Exactly.
Those guys,
and the thing,
they don't get out of the basement to let alone, go to a WrestleMania.
Well, right. And the thing is, though, is Jimmy, I'll say with Jimmy because you brought him up, is Jimmy is the nicest guy I've ever met. Every single year since he's been on the show for the last couple of years, he's messaged video messages to me for my son for his birthday, wishing him a happy birthday.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Who does that? I'm one of the nicest guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You may remember something, RJ, like when Korderas first started with you guys.
Yeah.
I sent you a tweet where I read that Tony Khan said that the referees don't matter.
Yeah.
In AEW. And you had put it up on the Reffin' It Up site, and Korderas said, "Oh, we'll discuss this on Tuesday."
Yeah.
And
he went off.
Yes.
To get Jimmy to literally swear. And like I say, drop F-bombs. Yeah. Well, not just you, and I appreciate that because we got him to do it, but, it just shows the passion that they put, like I said before, between the two of them, they have over 60 years of wrestling experience in the business. If they didn't last, they wouldn't have passion. When you guys have, like I said, I hate harping on it, but when you're personally requested to be a referee, pretty much for the most of Kurt Angle's career, Brian Hebner was his referee. For the majority of Edge's matches or Undertaker's matches, Jimmy was his referee. And now we're seeing it with Daniel Spencer with TNA. Where and like I said, I'm biased, clearly, and I'll admit it. But Daniel Spencer is he's a senior referee at OVW and at TNA right now. Who does that?
He was at OVW too.
Yeah, he's still doing OVW. He lives out in Louisville. But he's training people just the way that he was trained by Brian. The same way that Brian was trained by Earl. The same way that Earl trained Jimmy. It goes, you remember the guys that got you there.
Yeah.
And
there's the promoter out there saying that referees don't matter.
The thing is though, that promoter only wants to cater to his audience and rightfully so. He's the promoter. He's allowed to do what he wants. However, there's wrestling's for everybody. You guys may not like Lucha Libre, and that's fine. I like Lucha Libre. Somebody may not like strong style. You guys may like strong style. There's different wrestlings for everybody. And I don't remember growing up, and like I said, the internet when I was growing up isn't what it is now, clearly. And it's a shame because I go back and I grew up literally, I would actually get almost get detention in high school because I'd go out and print all the results off of PW Torch and in the library so I could read them in study hall. All the results from the night before or the pay-per-view or the house shows or the articles that Wade Keller would be writing. And, those days are gone. You go on your phone, you go on your computer and okay, there's that. You're watching, a TNA pay-per-view on your phone while you're doing that. You're doing this. And it's just sad that wrestling has gotten to that point where everybody thinks that they know it because they heard it from this guy, that heard it from that guy, that his sister and her brother was in the business 20 years ago.
Well, and that's what I think one of the good parts about the internet world is that it's not everybody. There's this giant section of people, but if just try to push them over that bubble to the left and we'll all just turn over here. You know what I mean? Just get them all over there because those people just live in a world that's not real. They live on this internet world, where they think what they're saying on Twitter, really bad. It's like the Jey Uso stuff when he won and there was the people oh, it's terrible. Everybody hates it. No one's reacting to it. And then literally he comes out on Raw 2 nights later and the entire arena is eating with him because he's made a connection with the fans, whether he's great in between the ropes or whatever. He's made a connection with his fans, but the people online were oh no, they're going to change it. It was bad because of the internet. The internet reaction was poor. It's no, that's the small amount of those trolls that are very loud. They're very loud, but I try to keep them.
Well, when they get together, they're loud, and I respect them. I'm
they're loud. Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
But they get loud, and like I said before, everybody's entitled to their opinions. Unfortunately, a lot of the time, those trolls are wrong.
Yeah,
because they have no idea what the hell they're talking about.
And we're entitled to tell them that their opinion is stupid. That's exactly.
Well, right, but the thing is, though, I go back to that where, I wasn't, the smartest of smart fans growing up either. I still remember going in Buffalo, to the Cracker Barrel on Transit Road in Williamsville.
Yes.
And I walk in and there's Al Snow. There's Edge. There's Christian having dinner. Didn't say boo to them because I'm oh, they're eating. I'll leave them alone. But you still had fans going up to him asking for this, asking for that. I'm all right, come on, guys, let them eat. But, but yeah, man, just, if it's one thing that, anybody listening to this can take away, if you're a wrestling fan, even if you're a sports fan, it goes to pretty much anybody across the board, is enjoy what you enjoy. Whether you're a wrestling fan, enjoy whatever. If you watch WWE and that's it, enjoy WWE. If you watch everything, enjoy everything. If you like the Buffalo Bills, like I said, I'm partial, but you're going to enjoy it either way. But enjoy it for what it's worth.
Just don't take it to that other level. Exactly.
Yeah.
Just keep
Well, exactly. And so many people do that.
That's all they do, unfortunately. But that's like I said, I'm very good at trying to keep those people out of my spectrum as best I can. Cause there's no use of like engaging with them because they're not going to change. They've made this their personality that they're either going to love one thing and hate everything else, or it's not even so much about their loving one thing. They just want to hate everything else. Like sometimes people come at me because I'll like pick on AEW for things, but everything I give them is a constructive criticism. Like, hey, if you did this better, I would enjoy it. I watched the product every single show for like 3 years until I couldn't anymore because it's like, this is no longer, like you said, I wasn't enjoying it. This wasn't bringing me enjoyment. So I stopped watching, just like I did for WWE from like 2015 to 2021 because it wasn't fun.
Well, I got to that point too with AEW. I'm like, I watched the highlights just because I need to know for the show.
Right.
If anything good happens or if anything bad happens with the referees, we talk about it. We have a specific segment. Joe, you guys know it's the ref and review.
Right.
Every time we have find certain things good, bad, and different. If we find good stuff, we'll give them props. If we find bad stuff, we'll give them, not by we, I mean Jimmy and Brian and Daniel, we'll give them constructive criticism on how to do it correctly, positioning, cadence, whatever the case may be. Unfortunately, a lot of the times it's been AEW because like you guys said, TK says that referees don't matter. Well, that's BS.
Yeah. I mean,
if it wasn't for the referee, a lot of these guys and a lot of these gals wouldn't be working.
Well, and sometimes the referees should be helping them so they could either work smarter or stopping certain things. Like, when one of your talent throws up in the ring, maybe the referee should be like, hey guys.
Or they're concussed.
Yeah. Just, no, and that's the thing is like George and I as fans who have never been in the business, have only watched it, can tell how bad they get out of position and how the referees are looking terrible. I can't imagine if that was my job and that was something that I was passionate about for my entire life, for my entire career, and then seeing somebody making a literal mockery of it on television. Yeah, I would be fuming. I would be fuming. I can only imagine.
And a lot of those times, like I said, I think Brian, he's been good recently, because we're trying to go places and where he said, Brian, you gotta, limit the F-bombs to at least one episode. And, like I said, there was episodes there where it was like every other word was the F word, but I said, hey, he's passionate.
Right, exactly.
I'll take it at face value.
He wants it to be better. He wants it to be
exactly.
It's not like he's saying, "Oh, this sucks. This is just terrible." It's like this is where this is bad. You need to do this instead. If there's F-bombs in there, it's just colorful. It's colorful.
And Jimmy's the same way. And, and to an extent from what Daniel can, cause Daniel's still working. So he's, he goes, he says what he thinks is good. And I told him, I said, you gotta do what you gotta do, man. You're still working for TNA. You're a contracted employee now. And, you have, not to say that Brian and Jimmy can't get fired. Cause they can't, they're not hired anywhere.
Right.
But, it shows the passion, man. If, like you said, you've been in the business for over 30 years, you've earned it. You've earned that, that thing for you.
RJ, how are you enjoying the discussions between Jimmy and Big Dave?
It's like every week it's a different thing, I think, or every day it's a different thing.
It is.
But I try to minimize and save it for the show as much as I can. But I think at this point, and this could go anywhere, but I just think Dave's getting a little, long in the tooth there. He's getting a little up there in age, and I think he's kind of forgetting certain things about the business. And like I said, he did a lot for the professional wrestling business. I'll give him that. But come on, man.
Did was the key word in the sentence. You know, it's one of those things.
Was that?
I said did was the key word in your sentence. Like, he did do a
well,
lot,
but the thing,
but now
I think
where he is now, it's, yeah, long in the tooth.
But excuse me, but I think he still has, pardon me, I think he has some skin in the game with AEW, and that's my opinion. I think he has like certain kind of things invested.
Yeah, it's not even if he's not like actually really invested in him, he knows his fan base is. The people that give him $15 a month, they are the people that are, you know, that 500,000 give or take that watch AEW religiously. Like, a portion of them pays for his monthly subscription. So even if he's not, even if he, like, you know, I hear people say that he's got a percentage of AEW, and he might. But even if he doesn't, he knows his entire, we'll say empire. You can't see, but I'm using air quotes. We'll say empire.
Fan base.
Yeah, fan base. His what's supporting him? The people that pay his bills.
And that's why he goes after Jimmy.
Exactly. Because it's those trolls that don't leave the basement that subscribe.
He loves going after Jimmy.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. And it's the same thing with TK is he will write and book matches. He's not a booker. He's not a promoter. He's a matchmaker. He will put who he wants out there, whether you want it or not. And he will make matches for his audience. And like I said, it's his company. He's entitled to do what he wants. Whatever. That doesn't mean that I should have to watch it if I don't want to. And clearly, if you look at the ratings according to WrestleNomics, they were down, I believe, this past week. And we talk about it, whether it's on air or off air, privately. It's the new norm where they're doing between 500 and 600,000 every Dynamite. And, you know, they're pulling houses that, you know, they're going to arenas like George. They went to, KeyBank Center in Buffalo for Dynamite. Correct me if I'm wrong, that's probably about anywhere from 18 to 19,000 seats in that facility, in that venue. Oof, and they probably put 3,000 to 4,000 in there.
If they're lucky.
Right. And like I said, do what you want to do. You got endless amount of money. If you can afford the rent on the venue, have at it, man. Yep. I can't tell you no, there's a reason why you're where you are and the reason why where I am. However, numbers don't lie, guys.
Yeah.
And when you are constantly being overshadowed by the quote unquote developmental NXT, and when you have your talent leaving, you know, Miro or Rusev, Ethan Page, Cody, Sarai just left. All this talent's leaving to go to the other company.
Lexus King, Ricky Saints.
Right.
Yeah. And they're all being presented as stars or at least growing. Like Lexus King, Brian Pillman's the perfect example where he was nothing in AEW. They never used him for anything. They brought him into NXT, made him put in the work, and like now he's finally getting regular TV time because he's earned it. He's worked it. He's, you know what he actually looks like now? A wrestler. Like he actually looks like he's someone who should be on TV every week.
He was always a very talented guy. I always enjoyed his work. And, you know, when was he a little snug? Sure, but it's real.
Yeah.
You know, like it's still real to me, damn it.
RJ, you've given us more than enough time than I thought you were gonna. So you've gone
anytime, guys.
You've gone a full hour and a half with us.
We appreciate it. Absolutely.
We usually knock off our shows right about there. So if you want to give a little plug,
get your plugs in, please.
Sure. If you want, you can follow myself here. It's at the one RJK. You can follow. I implore you guys to follow at Reffing It Up across all the social medias. This week we got Shelly Martinez on the show. Looking forward to that. She was Ariel, part of WWE and ECW. Went to TNA, part of LAX.
Okay.
We'll have her on this week. We actually just follow across all the social medias, all the platforms, YouTube, all that good stuff. We put out clips each and every week, for the show. We actually just picked up a, pretty big sponsorship and, a partnership with PSL City Tickets. Pretty much any sports ticket that you want across the country, PSL City Tickets has it for you. If you go over to pslcity.net, you get all the information there. Follow them online at PSL City Tickets on the Twitter and Instagram. We're looking forward to this great partnership with them, and we're going to have some giveaways in the near future with them as far as tickets goes and giveaways, and a lot of that stuff's going to be a lot of tailgating, which all you guys in Bill's Mafia don't know how to do that, but guys, it's been great. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
And go Bills.
Thank you, RJ. I appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. George, that was a good time, buddy. That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy having them on.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@AltJakeTakesOn. We recently just put out our review of Mania Night 1, Mania Night 2, and the Raw afterwards. And then we've got more stuff coming that we've been working on behind the scenes that we'll probably put out next week. We got some stuff to record. So thanks everybody. We'll be back next week for Sunday Night Spaces again. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.